Welcome to the first ever Uncle Henny's Campfire Stories. This is without a doubt a part of going a little bit nutty from being stuck at the house during this coronavirus lockdown. So I wanted to do something that I really enjoy, which is hang out with you guys. I'm going to be reading the chat, and then I'm going to be reading some scary stories. Tonight, I've picked some stories from More Super Scary Stories for Sleepovers and this classic Campfire Stories book. These are my two for right now, my go-to. And if we have a lot of fun, I'll do it again, maybe a couple of times a week, because to be frank, I'm starting to go crazy all by myself in this house. So let's see what's going on in the chat. I do want to mention, please, share this on your page. Tell people to join us and listen. I'd love to see us reach a nice listenership. And I'd be remiss if I don't mention, yes, at the bottom of the screen, if you feel so inclined, we do accept tips. And by we, I mean me. I'm pretty well out of work right now. So let's see what's going on in the chat real quick, guys. Sharon Lee said, hello. Hello, Sharon. Thank you for joining us. Cliff Coister, is this thing on? Yes, it is. Rebecca Randolph, woohoo! Woohoo! Let's see. Kevin Lakes said, hopefully it's not too spooky. For the most part, these are going to be relatively PG, but you never know what we might delve into. David Denoyer, hell yeah. Rob Fields said, sounds interesting. Well, we got a whole bunch of fun people in there, so please, you guys, feel free to invite. Tips are not mandatory, but they are appreciated. I'm really going to read probably for 2 hours, or until my voice just can't do it anymore. So, yeah, and I hope you guys like the ambience. I went all out because, like I said, too much time on my hands, so I built this this nice ambience set. And you guys in the chat, what do you think of the background? Do you like the campfire ambient sounds? I think maybe it should be louder. That might be better. And thank you, Tony. He said, I can't wait. This is already amazing. Nice lighting. Thank you, Tony. Hey, Jerry. Hey, Amber. Thank you guys for joining me. We're going to start a scary story here in a minute. And I figure what I'll do is I'll read a story, and then I'll take a break, drink some water, and I'll chat with you guys some for as long as my phone holds out. Yeah, I managed to build this whole set with just things laying around the house. But that's what happens when you're a movie director, is you have stuff like this laying around the house, except for this backdrop. This is not a green screen. This is a real printed backdrop. The only thing I had to order to do this, and it didn't cost me much more than $10. So, if we get $10 worth of, of tips, we'll break even. David, could it be more blue? Patrick Lamba, I demand scary stories. We're getting to that in just a second. Mark Shields, I clicked on the wrong page. I was looking for Marion's online ordering. Well, now is the time to order some Marion's. Jeff said, cool background. Thank you. Love the background. Thank you, Patrick. Jerry Roth, does Dave die in any of the stories? You love the background and the fire in the upper right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I love this logo right here, which was designed by myself and my buddy, Michelle. Oh man, we've got almost 30 people in here. Hi, Dara. Hi, Mark. Hey, Greg. Hey, Gary Adams. Thank you guys for joining me. Well, then I guess we're going to get to our first story. Oh, if you want to see how dedicated to ambience I am, I even, I'm keeping my water. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, I guess my first question is, do you want me to go with classic campfire stories, or do you want me to go with more scary stories for sleepovers? I want to hear some of your guys' opinions. So tell me what you want, and baby, I got it. I've been in the house alone a little too long, maybe. Oh, Shane Migliavaca is joining us. He's a phenomenal author. I've read many of his short stories on my podcast, Weekly Spooky, which if you like scary stories, you should check that out. A little bit different. Hey, Michael. He said, hello, Uncle Henry. Close enough. I'm guessing autocorrect didn't want to say Henny. It never wants to say Henny. Dwayne West said scary stories for sleepovers. So we're going with more... Whoa. To start, more super scary stories for sleepovers. So we'll start with just the first story in here. They're not super long, and then when I'm done reading, we can just hang out for a minute. So this is Legend. Now, bear with me, kids. This is a children's book. So we may jump between this and this guy right here, which seems to be a bit more adult focused, or at least vaguely so. Gary Adams, are you into movies? Very much, Gary. It's how I make my living, and it's my favorite hobby, my favorite pastime in the world. Rebecca Randolph, Sleepover. Jeff McClellan, Sleepover. Wow, Sleepover got a ton of requests. Oh, and Paul Scrabo, thank you so much. We got our first tip of the night from Paul Scrabo. Thank you so much, my friend. I very much appreciate it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to live respond to contributions, but we do have the PayPal and Venmo right there for you. We got 39 viewers, so I think it's time we start with our first story from More Super Scary Stories for Sleepovers. The story is called Legend. Mystical flute music drifted out through the open doors of the new shop on River Street. "This place must have just opened," Robin's cousin Sabrina commented, peering into the large display window. "It looks like it has some neat stuff. Want to check it out?" "Sure," Robin said with a shrug. "Okay," her friend Julie chimed in, "but let's make it really quick. I want to eat lunch. I'm starving." "You're always starving," Robin commented with a smile as the three girls entered the shop. Willowbrook was a small town. Still, it was right between the Klamath River and Redwood National Park. So there were always plenty of tourists, campers, and fishermen around to keep businesses booming in the midtown shopping area known as the Village. "Wow," Sabrina said softly once inside the shop. "This is cool." A wide range of Native American crafts, dolls, clothing, and other items were on display. Some stood on rough wooden shelves, while others were heaped in colorful baskets atop a glass showcase in the center of the room. Robin studied the delicate silver necklaces strung with pink and white shells that were carefully arranged in the case. She loved jewelry. Julie inspected the baskets. "These are so pretty," she observed as she ran her finger around the curved edge of a basket that held a variety of pine and floral-scented incense. "And so finely woven that you can even carry water in them without spilling a drop," came a voice from the rear of the store. A nice-looking, dark-haired young man stepped towards them. "May I help you, ladies?" "No, thank you," Robin answered politely. "We're in the Village every week, but we hadn't seen this store before. We're just taking a quick look." "Ah," he said with a grin, "you must be local residents. I am all the more pleased to meet you. My name is Henry, and my grandmother and I own this shop." He made a sweeping gesture towards the displays. "As you can see, we specialize in the traditional products and crafts of the tribes of this area. My people, the Shasta, among them." "It's really nice," Robin said sincerely. "We'll be back again when we have more time." "Just one more moment," he said as he plucked a small plastic bag from one of the display baskets. "These are sugar pine nuts. They're very tasty." He held them out to Julie. "Please accept them as a small introductory gift, and tell your friends about us," he added. "He was nice," Julie said, rummaging for another handful of pine nuts as they walked towards the pizza parlor. Suddenly, Robin stopped. "Wait." She patted both her jacket pockets. "I don't have my wallet. I must have set it down on the counter when I was looking at necklaces. You guys go ahead and get in line for a table. I'll run and get it and come back." But when she got back to the store, Robin was disappointed to see that her wallet wasn't on the counter. She searched around the floor, but it wasn't there either. "Is this what you're looking for?" Startled, Robin looked up to see a petite woman standing behind the glass counter, holding her wallet. The woman's long gray hair was pulled back in a tight braid, and her brown face was wrinkled with age. "Yes," Robin answered, "that's my wallet." "My grandson found it," the old woman explained. "He thought you might be back for it shortly." "Thank you," Robin responded. As she reached for the wallet, Robin's gaze fell on a pendant in the case she had not noticed earlier. It was a polished jet-black stone on a chain of delicate silver links that were so fine they looked almost fluid. An intricate design was carved deeply into the crescent-shaped stone. "That necklace is really beautiful," she remarked, pointing to the jewelry. "What kind of stone is that?" "Obsidian," the woman answered, slipping the piece from the case and holding it up to the light. "It's a kind of volcanic glass. It was once highly prized by the Karok people who lived here. Would you like to try it on?" "Well," Robin said hesitantly, "my friends are waiting for me. They're probably going to have to stand in line for a while," she thought. "Sure," she finally answered. "I'd love to try it on." Looking in the mirror, Robin admired the way the polished stone reflected the light. "I've never seen anything like this necklace," she said appreciatively. Is it one of a kind? There is another one, the woman whispered with an air of mystery. It holds a stone that can sustain life indefinitely for the wearer. The necklace you have on contains merely a powerless duplicate. Robin was intrigued. She didn't protest as the old woman began to relate the legend of the stone. Our people, the Shasta, have traded with the Karok since the time when the great trees rose everywhere like prayers to the spirits of nature. This is a story from those early times. Robin fingered the pendant as the shopkeeper spoke. 3 centuries ago, a young Karok girl became enraged with a boy of the tribe who did not return her affection for him, she began. When he was promised to another, the girl could not control her fury. She lured the boy to his death on a hillside trail, where he was buried by a rock slide of her making. But the girl's dreadful deed was witnessed by a member of her tribe who had been hunting nearby. That's horrible, Robin said with a gasp. What happened to her? That very night, the tribe was called to gather around a council fire. The girl was brought to face the tribal shaman, a powerful medicine man. As she stood trembling in the flickering firelight, the shaman decreed that her punishment was to be banished to the forest to live in solitude, with nothing to do but think about her terrible crime. So what about the pendant? Robin asked. How does it fit into the story? The woman leaned slightly forward on the glass counter. The shaman's magic was very strong. He wanted the girl to truly suffer. To ensure this, he placed a carved obsidian pendant around her neck, one that could never be removed by her own hand. Dark in color as her own black heart, the pendant kept the spirit of death away, making the punishment everlasting. The shaman then commanded the girl to return to the scene of her crime once each century, at midnight on the first night of the harvest moon. In this way, she was doomed to remember what she had done. Where was this place, the scene of the crime, I mean? Robin asked with growing curiosity. Is it around here? The shopkeeper nodded slowly. It is, but even the animals of the forest will not go near it. Robin raised an eyebrow. Well, living forever doesn't sound like such an awful punishment. Some things are not worth the price that one must pay, the woman responded solemnly. For a moment, Robin felt as if the woman knew something else, some important detail about the punishment that she wasn't telling. With a shrug, she removed the pendant. She had lost her fascination with it once she learned it was only an imitation. Instead, she brought a small book on local Native American legends, one that included the tale the shopkeeper had told her. At home that night, she read the story again. The editor of the book had included a footnote explaining how he'd tried to determine the exact location and time frame of the Karok girl's next legendary return. No way! Robin exclaimed after reading the footnote for the second time. Then she excitedly checked her calendar. I can't believe this, she gasped. If the editor is right, the girl is supposed to return only 3 weeks from now. Turning off the light, she made her way over to her bedroom window and gazed out at the moon. I wonder if it could be true, she whispered. I wonder what it would be like to know you were going to live forever. As she spoke, a cloud overtook the moon, blocking out its pale light and plunging the nearby forest into sinister darkness. I'm just checking to make sure that we're going good. Okay, sorry. Whenever there's a chance to take a break, I'm just going to make sure that our stream is still rolling along. It appears that we are doing very well as far as that goes. So, yeah. Stream is good. Sorry about the interruption. I get paranoid. All right. Next part. By the time the harvest moon rose over the horizon 3 weeks later, Robin had come up with a plan to satisfy her gnawing curiosity about whether the story the shopkeeper had told her was true. She even toyed with the fantasy of somehow winning the pendant for herself. Following the clues in the book, she'd already discovered the site of an ancient rock slide in the forest that seemed to match the description of the place where the boy had died. She hadn't told anyone about her scheme to be at the spot exactly at the stroke of midnight on the appointed day. No one would believe the story anyway, she told herself. It's only a legend, they would say. Robin had said it to herself many times, but somewhere deep inside she felt as if maybe, just maybe, it could be true, and she was going to find out. Later that night, Robin waited until she was certain that her parents were asleep. Then she slipped out through her window, got on her bicycle, which she had hidden in the bushes, and took off toward the forest. Her heavy breathing forming tiny white clouds in the chill autumn air. Turning off the main road, Robin followed a rutted dirt trail for a few hundred yards, then stopped to prop her bicycle against a small tree. Taking a flashlight from her backpack, she checked her watch. It was 11 o'clock. Cautiously, she made her way through the forest. She'd grown up around here and had been alone in the forest many times, but never at night. The light of the moon had the large boulders that rested here and there stand out like pale, grotesque phantoms. All around, the inky shadows slowly shifted as the lunar orb made its way across the night sky. Finally, she reached a small clearing against the low hillside she had been heading for. As the shopkeeper had predicted, it was completely deserted, as if even the animals refused to go near it. At the center of the clearing was a jumble of rocks and boulders that had probably tumbled down the hillside long ago. Robin wondered for a moment if the bones of the unfortunate young Indian boy, still rested under them. She settled into a wide, shadowy space between two boulders and switched off her flashlight. Everything was so still and quiet. The long walk had made her tired, and though Robin tried to resist, she felt her eyelids droop as she slowly drifted into a light sleep. A low moan woke her, and she snatched up her flashlight. Then she froze as she heard the noise again. Trembling from the cold night air and her growing fright, Robin hunched farther down in her hiding place. "What am I doing here?" she thought desperately. This was a crazy idea. Now the moan was replaced by a soft wailing, and it was coming closer. Finally, her curiosity overcame her fear. Robin silently leaned forward and peeked out. Her eyes widened in horror. Only a few yards away at the edge of the clearing, stood a young girl in the same type of Karak garb that had been illustrated in the book Robin had read. The girl was sobbing pitifully and clawing at something around her neck. With a shock of recognition, Robin gazed at the carved obsidian pendant, glimmering hypnotically in the moonlight. It appeared to resist every attempt that the tortured girl had made to remove it. Finally, the cursed maiden fell to the ground and howled in anguish. It's true, Robin realized. It's all true, thinking only of the pendant and its incredible power. She eased out of her hiding place and moved slowly, inch by inch, toward the writhing girl. Robin's eyes were glued to the gleaming black stone. She had to have it. With a sudden start, the girl looked up, but Robin didn't pause to see the agony in her dark eyes. She just reached greedily for the pendant and yanked it brutally away. All at once, the pain seemed to melt from the Karak girl, and for a fleeting moment, she smiled. With a final glance at the moon, she closed her eyes and dissolved into a pile of dust. Robin watched as the fine grains stirred, then were carried off in the gentle night breeze. In triumph, Robin gripped the obsidian stone in her fist. "Now I will live forever," she cried out. She opened her hand slowly, trembling. She draped the broken chain around her neck and instantly felt the stone at her throat grow warm, then hot. It was as if the pendant were burning itself into her skin. "What's happening?" she cried, trying to reach for it. But Robin's arms were becoming rigid, and against her will, they were now reaching towards the night sky. Terrified, she felt her body stiffen and stretch as her feet sank into the ground and her skin thickened and grew hard. All at once, Robin realized the truth. She suddenly knew the vital detail that the shopkeeper had neglected to tell her. It was that the Karak girl regained her human form only once each century. The rest of the time she lived in a different form, the one that Robin's body was now taking. "No!" she screamed in the last vestiges of her human voice. "I didn't know it would be like this! Please!" she begged, but her voice faded away into nothing more than a soft lament that sounded almost like the wind moaning through the treetops. And as the animals of the night watched from the distant shadows, they saw a new tree take root and become a part of the ancient forest. But unlike the other trees, this one would live forever. Man, I liked that one. I hope you guys dug that. I dug that story. I will mention, I have not intentionally read any of these stories ahead of time. So, that's the first story, that Legend. I thought that one was pretty good. I got goosebumps a couple of times. Honestly, my favorite thing about reading scary stories out loud, I'm not like known for being a strong reader, to be frank. I'm not good at being a disciplined reader, but reading out loud makes me sit and read. Wow, we have 40 people watching. Thank you guys so much. So let's see. Oh man, I'm trying to keep up with these. You need to make the fire icon into a t-shirt. Maybe next time I do this, I'll make a limited edition t-shirt for everybody. I'm inviting people to watch. Thank you, Patrick. John O'Dalton, Getting Spooked in Indiana. Shane Migliavacca, This Is What's Needed Now. Thank you. Tony Giannat, the t-shirt comment. Hobbs Horror is here. Thank you. Perfect entertainment to listen to while playing a game with the missus. Thank you, Morgan. Cliff Lau can still hear. Thank you. Craig Cohen, Perfection. Thank you guys so much for all these awesome comments. Thank you. That was a fun one. I think we'll do another one from that in a second. I just need to get a little something to drink, and also thank our tip, the people who've tipped so far. Again, thank you to Paul Scrabo for being our first tip. I'm an independent filmmaker for a living, and right now, a lot of what I'm doing is completely and utterly shut down. I'm not the only person out of work by any stretch, and I don't want an immense amount of pity, but you know, a couple of bucks here and there definitely helps keep things rolling. Also, if you like scary stories, I do want to mention I have a podcast called Weekly Spooky where I read stories. It's a little bit more produced than this, but it's just as much fun, so you might want to check that out. All right. Our other tippers, I want to mention Rob Fields. Thank you so much for tipping. We've actually featured one of Rob's stories on Weekly Spooky, and we're going to feature another one probably next week. And we got a contribution from Anthony Marr on Venmo. Thank you, Anthony. Okay, I want to try to keep up with what you guys are saying. That was awesome by Ray Brown. Thank you. Tony Janot, that's terrifying. Jeff McClellan, that's a good story. Thank you. Rebecca Randolph, that was awesome. Thank you. Nice Henrik, thank you, Craig. Jerry Roth, I really like that one as well. Thank you, Jerry. John O'Dalton commented, I'm on Weekly Spooky this week. It's true, today's episode of Weekly Spooky is a story he wrote. If when we finish up this stream, you just need some more spooky stories, weeklyspooky.com, completely free, and a great place to be. We all need some entertainment right about now, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing this. Not only for you guys, but for me. I really am enjoying getting to sit down and chill out with you guys and read some scary stories. So, okay, do you guys, I'm kind of feeling this Scary Stories for Sleepovers book. What do you guys think? Should we keep going with another story from it? In the future, would you make a werewolf movie, Gary Adams? I would be happy to make a werewolf movie. It's just a matter of budget. I did do a Bigfoot television series called Boggy Creek the Series that's on Amazon Prime right now. And we had a monster suit in that, and the monster suit was awesome and looked great, but monster suits are very challenging. So it takes a lot out of you to make a monster suit TV show. Rob Field said, I love the set and ambience. Thank you. I thought it was an extra perfect addition to be drinking out of a thermos. Yeah, when I was putting this together, originally I was just going to do like a spooky backdrop and some blue light or whatever. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? We could go full campfire. Because it's still a little, in most of the U.S., it's still a little too cold for camping. Let's see what you guys are saying. Mark Shields, keep going. Yes, please read another from that book. Loved Boggy Creek, the series. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, both Tonys. David Denoyer, it was wicked hot in that suit. David, in the chat, played Bigfoot. Bigfoot in Boggy Creek, the series. Morgan Moore, I feel you on not being able to film anything. I was about to start shooting a horror hosting show before DATV shut down, though the lockdown has given me plenty of time to finish writing a film script. Man, oh man, dude. I need to do some more writing, but I've been spending so much time just trying to kind of get my mind around what's going on and get myself well, I guess, not to get too intensely personal. But let's say we'll do another story, and then afterward we'll chat again. And, again, tips are not required, but they are encouraged. I appreciate anybody who tips me via PayPal or Venmo. But let's see what we've got in store for y'all with scary stories for sleepovers. More super scary sleepovers. And I should also warn you guys, there are a bunch of these scary stories for sleepovers books, and I ordered 2 more of them because I plan on doing this quite a bit. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. All right, here we go. This story is called The Colony. Andrea's mother opened the curtains. "Time to get up, sleepyhead," she announced cheerfully. Blinking her eyes, Andrea flung her hands over her head and happily stretched her arms. Lean body. The sunlight streaming through the now open sliding glass doors of the motel balcony had the opposite effect on her older sister, Claire. Claire pulled the covers over her head. "Morning, Mom," Andrea said, sliding out of bed and stepping out into the balcony. "Morning, Grouch," she called to her sister, still hiding from the day. The family had been vacationing in the Florida Keys for 3 days, and Andrea was still awed by the spectacular view. Their hotel was nestled at the inner edge of a beautiful white sand beach, beyond where the placid azure waters of the Gulf of Mexico. "Your dad and I have already had breakfast, and your brother is already down on the beach," her mother told her. Andrea dropped her gaze and immediately spotted Brandon wading along the shore, snorkeling gear in hand. "He's not going in the water without me," Andrea squealed and raced to get ready. "Come on, Claire," she urged, pulling on her still damp swimsuit. "Are you going to sleep all day? Brandon's outside already having fun. Let's go." "I'll be down in a few minutes," Claire mumbled. Moments later, Andrea sprinted across the warm sand and charged into the water up to her knees, seeing her brother farther out with his mask and snorkel on, floating face down on the surface. Andrea watched as he curled down in a shallow dive. Seconds later, he popped up just a few feet away, blowing a stream of water from his snorkel, then tugging off his mask. He began sloshing toward her. "Look at this," Brandon said proudly when he reached her. He held up a cone-shaped brown and white shell that was as large as his hand. "Wow, it's beautiful," Andrea declared. "Hey, you guys, what have you got?" Claire asked, joining them in the water. "It's a cool shell," Brandon answered. "It's the only neat one I've found so far," he added. "You're just not looking in the right place," Claire said matter-of-factly. "Oh, really?" Brandon shot back. "And since when did you become the expert?" "Since I talked to that guy up there." She gestured toward a tall man walking up the beach carrying 2 large red plastic buckets. "He had lots of really pretty shells. I asked him where they came from, and he said he'd collected them along a cove about a half a mile from here, closer to the Atlantic side. It's overgrown and doesn't have a nice beach, so people don't go there much." "That won't bother me," Andrea responded with a big smile. "Let's check it out." Claire held up her hand. "Wait a minute. He said something else too. There's a steep drop-off and the current can shift sometimes. He warned me not to go there, but if I did, to stay close to shore. And he was serious about it. He said not to go beyond the drop-off for any reason." "Okay," Brandon said, nodding. "No problem," Andrea agreed. "Let's go." It didn't take long for the kids to find the cove the man had told Claire about, even though a stand of scrub pines hid it from the main road, and a tangle of vegetation covered the beach almost all the way to the waterline. Only a thin strip of coarse yellowish sand remained uncovered. "I don't like this," she thought, slapping at a mosquito that was making a meal on her blood. "The guy who told you about this place was right, Claire," she said when they reached the beach. "It doesn't look that great." "Not if you want to play volleyball," Brandon said with a chuckle, "but we're here to snorkel." Andrea couldn't shake the edgy feeling that had gripped her. Still, she waded into the clear blue water. It was much deeper than the beach where they usually swam, and it sloped more steeply. Claire eased out beside her, and Andrea noticed that her sister was still wearing the pearl ring that her parents had given her on her last birthday. "Did you mean to wear your good ring into the water?" Andrea asked. "Oh no," Claire muttered. "I forgot to take it off at the motel." She looked back at the beach. I don't feel safe leaving it here. I'll just wear it. Adjusting her snorkel in her mouth, Andrea stretched out face down on the surface to view the underwater realm. The sand was dotted with patches of coral, each patch alive with colorful fish. Andrea caught a flash of silver out of the corner of her eye. She turned just in time to see a small barracuda, its gaping mouth filled with tiny, sharp teeth. The predatory fish circled them curiously for a moment, then swam gracefully seaward. Andrea watched it until something in the deep water beyond the drop-off drew her attention. What is that? She wondered, peering into the shadowy depths where little sunlight penetrated. It looked like a structure of some kind, almost like a sunken fortress. Whatever it was, it didn't appear to be a natural formation, and something about it seemed sinister. Andrea wanted to get a better look. Kicking a little closer, she took a deep breath and dove down a few feet. She kicked again, propelling herself even deeper and closer to the edge. Then, to her astonishment, she was just able to make out an ancient-looking door at the base of the structure. And the door was opening. Andrea gasped, and her mouth filled with seawater. Fighting the reflex to swallow, she rocketed upwards back into the bright sunlight. Coughing and sputtering, she tugged off her mask. "You okay?" Brandon called out to her. "I swallowed some water. Let's go in." Andrea choked out and headed for the shore. "Did you see that thing in the deep water?" she asked the others as they flopped down on the sand. "You mean the weird stone thing?" Brandon responded. "Yeah, I don't know why, but it kind of gave me the creeps." "Me too," Andrea admitted. I thought I saw," she hesitated. "Did you guys see a part of it open?" "I think you've been holding your breath too long," Claire said and laughed. Andrea scowled. "Lots of spooky things happen around here," she declared defensively. "I've read stories about people and ships disappearing without a trace in a part of the Atlantic Ocean called the Bermuda Triangle. And that's not far from here, you know. Even a whole island disappeared. Maybe that structure was part of it." You're mixing up different legends," Claire said with a wave of her hand. "The island you're talking about is Atlantis. It was just a myth, and most of the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle can be explained away. There's always a logical answer if you look for it instead of believing in silly stories." "Okay, Miss Know-It-All," Andrea demanded angrily. "Then what is that thing down there?" Claire shook her head, still smiling. "I don't know, but if it was anything important, don't you think other people would have explored it by now? Or at least reported it?" "Maybe they tried," Brandon replied ominously. "And maybe something stopped them." "Well," Claire said, standing, "I really don't care what it is or why. Oh no!" She held up her hand. "My ring! It's gone!" She glanced out towards the water and back to her brother and sister. I've got to go and look for it." "You're crazy," Brandon protested. "There's no way you can find that little ring out there. I remember where I was swimming the last time I saw it. I can find it if you guys help me," she begged. The thought of going back into the water scared Andrea, but Claire had already made her feel foolish about her fear. "Okay," she agreed reluctantly, "but let's hurry." With Claire in the lead, the three carefully retraced her path. They had almost given up the search when Brandon suddenly signaled and pointed to something caught on a piece of coral at the edge of the drop-off. It was the ring. Andrea watched Claire dive toward it, but just as her sister reached out to grab the ring, Andrea felt herself heading downward too. Against her will. The current had suddenly began shifting strongly seaward, and even though she had kicked as hard as she could, Andrea was swept helplessly toward the drop-off. She lost sight of Brandon altogether, but she saw Claire grabbing at the coral in panic as the unnatural current caught her in its grip as well. It was dragging them over the edge and into the depths, and right towards the unearthly structure. Her body screaming for a fresh breath, Andrea felt consciousness slipping away. She barely noticed as an opening suddenly appeared at the base. Then, in a flash, she and her sister and brother were sucked through the gaping maw. Regaining her senses, Andrea found herself on the stone floor of a gloomy, air-filled chamber with corridors leading off in several directions. Small crystals embedded in the stone walls appeared to be giving off a faint glow. "Claire!" she cried out. "Brandon!" "Shh!" Her sister hushed her. "We're right here, but you've got to be quiet." There was a tremor in her voice. "I don't think we're alone." Andrea fell silent and listened to the sound of water falling drop by drop from the roof of the chamber. And yes, there was a shuffling noise, as if something had just moved quickly across the floor of a nearby corridor. "What are you going to do?" she whispered, pressing closer to her brother and struggling to hold back her tears. "We have to find a way back to the surface," he answered, trying to sound brave. "One of these corridors may lead upward." "But even if it does," Andrea moaned, "it might take us farther out to sea." "We have to take that chance," Claire insisted. Slowly, the three entered the nearest corridor. Andrea's eyes had adjusted to the gloom, enough so that she could make out some mythical carvings on the walls. Whatever they were in, it was clearly no natural formation. But who had built it? And where were they now? Claire stopped and turned, peering into the shadows behind her. "I can't shake the feeling that we're being followed," she murmured under her breath. Andrea felt it too. "It's waiting," she thought in horror. The corridor took a turn and ended abruptly. There were entrances to two others, one leading left, the other to the right. "Let's try this way," Brandon urged, nudging Andrea and Claire to the left. "The other one is going down." Within a few yards, the corridor opened onto a small alcove. Brandon held up his hand for his sisters to wait, and he stepped cautiously inside. "There's no way out through here," he called back softly. "There's just a lot of piles of stuff. They look like big, round shells or something. I can't make out what." Just then, Brandon's foot kicked an object at the bottom of one of the piles. Andrea watched as something pale and fairly round rolled towards her feet. She bent down to pick it up, then looked into two empty eyes and a fleshless grin. With a blood-curdling scream, she dropped it. "It's a skull!" she sobbed. "A human skull!" The unstable pile suddenly gave way, and dozens of skulls tumbled across the stone floor. "Let's get out of here," Claire yelled, and they dashed back along the corridor that headed down deeper into the seabed. Gasping for breath, they finally stumbled into a huge, open chamber and stopped abruptly as if they had been glued to the spot. Dozens and dozens of dark, cloaked figures stood waiting in the shadows all around them. Brandon was the first to find his voice. "Who are you?" he murmured hoarsely. "What do you want from us?" One figure stepped into the dim glow of a crystal and lowered the hood of its cloak. Andrea felt her heart pumping furiously. The being was ghostly pale and slender, with cruel, blood-red eyes. It opened its mouth to speak, and exposed a pair of sharp, gruesome fangs. "Why, child, we want your blood, of course." "Vampires!" Claire whispered in fright. "But this isn't possible! You don't exist!" "I assure you we do," the creature said, and laughed evilly. "And we have prospered far better than our land-dwelling brethren since we left the surface centuries ago to establish this colony. Here we are safe from those who would hunt us and from the wretched effects of your miserable sun." Licking its lips, the hideous vampire moved closer. Andrea glanced back down the corridor, hoping to find an avenue of escape, but saw three shadowy beings barring the way. "And we have had no shortage of prey. We feed on those of you who are careless enough to stray too close to our realm," the creature gloated. "I imagine the disappearances have caused some alarm, but humans will always seek logical answers. Just as they will explain away your disappearances, my unfortunate ones." With that, the grotesque creatures threw back their hoods and snarling slowly advanced towards Andrea, Claire, and Brandon. Andrea wanted to run, to scream, but all she could do was gaze at the horrible face that bore down on her, drowning in the depths of its blood-red eyes. Oh man, that was fun. That was fun. I was not expecting aquatic vampires. Okay, let's see what's going on in the chat. That one was fun. I got more chills from the last one, but that was still pretty fun. Michelle Antisocial. I did not expect vampires. Very accurate. Shane Migliavacca, I want to pick up some of these books. So fun. Hey, if you guys like these books, just search Scary Stories for Sleepovers on Amazon. They are tons of them used. You can get them super easy, super cheap. I don't think I've ever paid more than $8 for one, including shipping. Wow, we got 36 people hanging out. It's been 40 years since someone read me a story. Thank you. You're welcome, Michael. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Dara, you are great, Henrik. Thank you. All right, let's see. Tony Giannot, very cool. Aquatic Vampires Lives Matter too. Thank you, Alani. Let's see. Did we get any other tips? Oh, we did. Thank you guys so much. We got a tip from David Denoyer, who tipped an odd number just to be annoying, but I love him anyway. Oh, and a tip from Jerry Roth. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much. Again, tips are not required, but they are appreciated. $1 or $2 is plenty, although you guys have been super generous and you've been tipping much more than $1 or $2. I really do appreciate it. Okay. Well, if you guys want, I mean, I'm happy to keep reading till 10 o'clock unless my voice starts to really give, so I'm going to drink a little bit more water. But if you guys want me to keep going, I just will. I just might. I was excited the moment I read Vampires, because these stories are mostly new to me too. And when I read Vampires, I was like, oh good, I can do my classy vampire voice. Oh yes, the classy vampire voice. Although it'd be classy vampire voice because they're underwater vampires, but I apologize for that joke. Let's see. Raymond Brown, Deep Sea Vampires. Wow, right? Rob Fields, buy your dog some good kibble. John Oak Dalton, one more time. David the Door said he loves odd scent tips. Thanks, Dave. Hey, Dave, since you're watching live, do me a favor, because I'm paranoid about the show cutting out or the audio cutting out. If something happens to where the sound is completely stopped and people are, freaking out there, just call my phone. That'll be my cue, because I'm trying not to be self-conscious while I read and check over here and make sure that, that the show's still going. So, Patrick Lamba, another. Deborah Barker Hood said that was a nice twist. Thank you. Jerry Roth, this is fun. I am having a really good time too. Please do, by the way, just click share and share this to your friends. Tell them that you're hanging out with me, listening to some scary stories and having a good time. I don't, honestly, the tips are amazing, but the thing that I like the most about this is just getting a chance to feel like I get to hang out with people. It's because, we're all, not all of us, but many of us are not essential, so we're hanging out on our own. Shane Migliavacca, deep sea vampires are a thing that needs to happen more. Well, Shane, I think it sounds like you have a writing assignment for Weekly Spooky now. Deep sea vampires. Thank you so much, from Sharon Pearson, thank you so much for the tip. I very much appreciate it. All right, well, let's do another one. Like I said, I'm going to go until a little after 10 o'clock, unless my voice starts to give out. That's why I'm trying to take some nice long breaks here and there. Ooh, okay. So we got another story. It seems like you guys are really digging the more super scary stories to tell at sleepovers. And I'm happy to read these, because the cool thing about this is they're kid friendly. So if you want to sit there with your loved ones and your children that you were quarantined with, maybe this makes that a little bit more bearable. All right. Here we go, friends. This story is called Airwaves. Not to be confused with my film Scare Waves. All right. Sorry, my hair has been driving me crazy. Aaron's dad walked purposely to the television set and shut it off. "Is your homework done?" he said in an irritated tone. "Almost," Aaron answered, hedging around the truth, which was that he hadn't even started it. "I'll finish it right after the show." "You'll finish it now," his dad demanded. "I'm not going to stand by and watch you turn into a couch potato." Hey, being a couch potato, sorry to interrupt the story, but being a couch potato is like being a good citizen right now, but I digress. Oh no, Aaron thought. Here it comes again. I don't see why you want to spend all your time sitting in front of a television anyway. Why don't you get outside more? Why don't you spend more time with your friends? All my friends watch TV too, Dad, Aaron offered. His father shook his head and sighed. You know, when I was a boy, he began. Aaron pushed his glasses back up onto the bridge of his nose and flopped against the couch cushions. He was trapped. There was nothing he could do now but listen. Television was something special that I got to watch occasionally, his dad went on. I spent time with my friends playing baseball or just goofing around. I don't like baseball, Aaron said uncooperatively. Besides, I don't see what the big deal is, he added, knowing that what he was about to say would annoy his father. Mom never minded when I watched TV, and you never used to complain about it when she was here. Aaron knew he was standing on firm ground with this statement. Before his parents' divorce, his dad hadn't paid much attention to him. Now he was always on his case. Well, things are different now, his father replied. Look, he finally said, I don't want to fight with you about this all the time. Maybe we can work out a compromise. But for now, I want you to finish your homework. But Dad, Aaron protested, it's Friday. I can finish it over the weekend. There's a new sci-fi show starting tonight, Gamma Brigade. Everybody's going to watch it. Upstairs, his father said, pointing towards Aaron's room. When Aaron got on the school bus the next Monday morning, everyone was talking about Gamma Brigade. What did you think of that gamma ray retro blaster the captain had? Aaron's friend Eddie asked, sliding into his seat. I didn't see it, Aaron answered glumly. Eddie gaped at him in surprise. What do you mean? How could you miss it? Aaron scowled. Well, my dad wouldn't let me watch TV, he explained. Eddie shrugged. My mom gets like that about TV sometimes. She says that if I watch too much, it'll hurt my eyes, but I guess that wouldn't be a problem for you. He grinned and tapped on the unusually thick lenses of Aaron's special prescription glasses that he wore to correct his bad astigmatism. You're already blind as a bat. Aaron smiled back mischievously. Yeah, I may need glasses, but at least my feet touch the floor when I sit down, shorty. He and Eddie always poked fun at each other, but they both knew it was only friendly kidding. Once he got to school, it was clear to Aaron that he was probably the only kid who had missed the premiere of Gamma Brigade. So, who thinks the captain is kind of cute? Becky asked as she joined Aaron and several other kids in the cafeteria at lunchtime. I think the dispatcher is more your type, Anne said, smugly. Everyone laughed, except Aaron. What's so funny? He asked. The dispatcher is this really disgusting, ugly alien dude who hosts the show, Eddie explained. He's supposed to be able to keep in contact with the characters through their special communicator badges. I already sent away for mine. Me too, Becky said, and then she turned to Aaron. The badges are some kind of promotion. You can get them free if you write to the television station. Aaron nodded, wondering if he'd ever get to see the show himself. After dinner the following Friday night, Aaron sat expectantly in front of the TV set. Gamma Brigade would be starting in a few minutes, and he and his dad had worked out a deal in which he could watch an hour of TV each night, as long as his homework was finished beforehand. Leaning back, he prepared to become completely lost in what his friends had claimed was the best sci-fi show ever, but as the minutes passed, his disappointment grew. What is everybody making such a big deal about? He muttered when the show was nearly half over. True, the dispatcher was a pretty cool alien. He looked something like a huge lime green lizard in a military uniform, but the show itself was hokey. Nevertheless, Aaron followed the instructions given after the credits to obtain his very own communicator badge. He printed his name, age, address, and the number of people in his family on a 3x5 card, then mailed it to the TV station. On the bus the following Monday, Aaron related his disappointment about Gamma Brigade to Eddie. The sets were so cheesy looking, he said critically, and even I could have written a better story. I doubt that, Eddie responded with obvious displeasure. He nonchalantly ran one finger over the communicator badge that he now wore on his shirt at all times. You're crazy. The show is great. What's bothering you? Aaron asked. It's only a stupid television show. I just don't think it measures up. Measures up? Was that supposed to be some kind of crack about my height? Eddie demanded angrily. Aaron couldn't believe that his friend was so upset. No, I wasn't trying to make a joke. But Eddie cut him off. Look, I'm sick of your dumb jokes, and I'm sick of you. With that, he slid out of his seat and moved to the front of the bus. At school, Eddie let the other kids know what Aaron had said about Gamma Brigade. By lunchtime, he was an outcast. Everyone seemed to be taking the show so seriously. Then, during gym class, he was stunned to see that even Coach Mortimer was wearing a communicator badge on his sweatshirt. By the time Aaron got home, he was in a terrible mood. His dad was in the family room, but Aaron went straight to his room and didn't come out until dinner time. When he did come downstairs, he saw that his dad was still in the family room, sitting on the couch. "Dad?" he murmured. His father said nothing. The room was lit only by the spectral glow of the TV screen. In the bluish light, Aaron could see his father was mesmerized by what he was watching. "Dad?" Aaron tried again. He glanced at the screen and saw the alien face of the dispatcher. "Dad, what are you doing?" Aaron asked, flipping on the overhead light. His father turned to him and smiled. "I'm watching that show all you kids are talking about," he said. "I've been a little hard on you lately, so I thought it might be nice if I checked it out. Sort of met you halfway." Aaron looked at the screen. "But it's not supposed to be on tonight." His father laughed. "Well, I heard from A.J. Johnson, who works at the station, that the show's such a big hit, they've decided to air it 5 days a week. And look here," he declared, holding out a small package. "This arrived in the mail for you. Sorry I opened it." Aaron threw a puzzled glance at his father and took the already opened box. Inside was a communicator badge in a protective plastic sleeve. "But how did it get here so fast? I only sent for it on—" "That doesn't matter," his dad interrupted. "Let me help you put it on." He grabbed the package and fumbled with the small plastic bag. Aaron noticed that a similar badge was also pinned to his father's shirt. "Wait a minute," Aaron said with a growing sense of dread. "Where did you get that?" He pointed to the badge pinned to his father's left shirt pocket. "It was in the box when I opened it. The station must have sent one for every member of the family," his father said, reaching towards him. "Let's put yours on. Come on now. Let me help you with this." "No!" Aaron cried out, trying to push his dad away. His watch caught on his father's badge, ripping open his shirt. Aaron gasped in horror. The image of the badge was emblazoned in a raised pattern on his dad's bare chest. Stumbling back, Aaron could hardly believe his eyes. His father lunged at him again with the badge in hand, but Aaron managed to twist away and charge to the front door. He didn't understand exactly what was going on, but he knew for certain that he didn't want one of those badges on him. "There's nowhere for you to run," his father screamed as Aaron raced into the night. "They'll find you." Aaron fled until he felt that his lungs would burst. Finally, he had to stop. Gulping in the cool evening air, he realized that he was on the main street of town, but it wasn't completely deserted. "I've got to get to the police station," he moaned aloud, heading to the 2-story brick building at the end of the block. As he passed McLeavy's Electronics, he was confronted by dozens of TV sets of every size in the huge display window. The dispatcher's hideous lizard face was on every screen. "Give yourself up," the image demanded, its eyes boring into Aaron's. "We will find you." As Aaron reached to the police station, he saw an officer stepping out through the door. In terror, he realized that the man had a communicator badge displayed prominently on his uniform. Aaron ducked back into the shadows. "What am I going to do?" he moaned. He had never felt so alone in his life. When the first glimmer of dawn showed on the horizon, Aaron made up his mind. The television station, he thought. That's where everything started. Maybe if I could just shut it down. Aaron remembered the address where he had sent his order for the communicator badge. It was only a few blocks away, and keeping to the shadows, he made his way toward it. There was no one around when he got there. He easily found an unlocked window and managed to work his way inside, dropping into a huge dark room. Must be the soundstage, he thought as he moved across the empty area. Then, all at once, a single, powerful spotlight clicked on, creating a pool of white light only a few feet away from where he stood. Aaron shielded his eyes, and at the same time, he felt a slight vibration that seemed to emanate from the floor and walls. A distorted voice spoke from somewhere in the surrounding gloom. "Join us," it whispered. As Aaron watched, a figure stepped into the pool of light. He recognized the bizarre alien features of the Gamma Brigade dispatcher. "It isn't going to be so bad," the creature said, soothingly, "though it would have been much easier if you had surrendered your will like the others." The dispatcher moved closer and leaned toward Aaron, as if to get a closer look. "This thick glass you wear over your eyes must have somehow interfered with our broadcast." Aaron reached up to touch his special lenses. still too dumbfounded to speak. "Well," the being said with an air of satisfaction, "it doesn't matter now. Our goal has been achieved." "What goal?" Aaron stammered, finding his voice. "We came here to find suitable laborers to rebuild our planet. You Earthlings are easily influenced and will work quite well for us." From somewhere deep inside, Aaron dredged up the courage to resist. "No!" he screamed. "I will never join you! I'll find others and we'll stop you!" "You're welcome to try," the creature answered, with a sound that seemed somewhat like a laugh. "But you will fail." With that, the lights rose. Aaron saw that he was in a huge circular area. Dozens of small viewing screens flickered all on above him, showing the townspeople sitting placidly and uncaring in small cells. His dad was among them. A single large screen showed planet Earth falling rapidly away behind them. "I'm on your ship," Aaron said in quiet shock. "Aren't I?" "Clever boy," the alien answered, opening its clawed hand. In its palm rested a communicator badge. "Put it on," the creature commanded. "It will be easier that way." Aaron watched as his beloved planet grew smaller and smaller on the screen. He turned and reached for the badge, then slowly pinned it over his heart. Oh, that one got me. That one got me. I know that these are nerdy stories, but I like that one a lot. Kissy Ali, one of us. Hi from Nathan Makeley. Hello, Nathan. Hey, Casey. Also, Doggo is with me. Aw. I'm all curled up under the blankets, ready to be spooked 10. LOL. Patrick Lamba. Is it just me, or is that red light getting brighter and brighter? Alien invasion, neat. LOL. That's the world we live in. Patrick Lamba, Henwolf howls. Henwolf was actually over there stomping around a minute ago. I was wondering if she was going to pop in. Keith Tomlin, loving the stories. I'm just shocked you can read. Oh, Keith. Raymond Brown, that was cool. Mark Shields, it's a cookbook. Talk about the sense of feeling totally screwed. The kid, I mean, that was Rob Fields. Shades of Twilight Zone, it's a cookbook. I loved it. Alani, you know, a lot of these they're reminding me of how much I loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? Real quick, let's see. It looks like we actually, we got a couple more. Oh man, we got a couple more contributions. Thank you, Raymond Brown, for your tip. And Keith Tomlin, who sent a tip that is 666, the number of the beast. I don't know if you guys could read that or not, but he sent $6.66. You know, Keith, it would be a much more effective joke if it was $666, but I digress. But thank you so much to the people who have tipped so generously. I'm just going to take a moment to water up. Also, next time we do this, I am going to use a more comfortable chair. I'm sitting on like a stool with a very minor pad, and that was probably not the best choice. Next time I'll sit on something a little bit more comfy. Nice, we just hit an hour. Very good. I like that one. I like that they're throwing sci-fi at us. They're throwing aquatic horror at us, and most importantly, that this book opened with, you know, a campfire story, a real campfire story, a story about a kid wandering in the woods and something not so great happening to him. I love it. Cassia Lee, is your butt going numb? Oh no. I mean, I can't feel my butt unless I use my hands at this point. Oh, Jerry said, Hen, where can people buy your films? Well, my movies are available at a lot of places, but the best place to buy physical copies of my movies is at my web store, which is henflix.com. Henflix.com, we're running a special right now. Every single feature film on the store is only $10. So if you want to buy some merch to support independent artists and help you out during your self-imposed social distancing, you could go to henflix.com, henflix.com. Kevin Lake said rocking chair would fit the atmosphere well. You know, I wouldn't mind a rocking chair. I'm just worried about keeping focus. It's pronounced like Lee, sorry, but I'll take Leah. Sorry, Casey Lee. I do apologize. Believe me, I know all about having people say my name wrong. So, You heard him. All of his movies are only a single 10 spot each. Thank you, Rob Fields. Nathan said, getting ready to go to bed. Thanks for the story, buddy. No problem, Nathan. You have a great night. And thank you for joining me for a little bit. Raymond Brown said lawn chair. I mean, this is a little bit less terrible than a lawn chair, but it is like, one of those stools you buy at Walmart for $13. Rob Field said, what? You're not sitting on a tree stump. Boo. I know, right? I should have a tree stump. Poor Casey Lee. Patrick Lamba said, poor Casey Leah. Casey Lee said, steal the rocking chair from Cracker Barrel. I have a feeling that they wouldn't be able to catch me if I ran with it because they'd be too busy filling to-go orders. That was a fun one. I liked that one a whole lot. Let's see. And as I said, tipping is not required, but it is appreciated. Jerry Roth said, I'm off of Facebook for now, but have fun, and I am shocked you don't have Dave's head next to you. Well, the problem is it's hard for me to kill my friend Dave thanks to social distancing. It's one of the few things that truly has harmed our society in social distancing. Alani said, this feels like when I listened to Sears Mystery Theater. Much happy. I'm glad that you're having a good time with it. Raymond Brown said, dude, I can get you a nice tree stump. I don't really want the tree stump on my carpet. Casey Lee said, my doggo just grunted, so there's your tip. Henwolf, I don't know what she's doing in that hallway, but I think she was rolling over. Sometimes she likes to roll over on her back in the hallway. I think that she was doing that. I don't know if it picked up on my microphone or not. But next time, maybe I'll get some marshmallows and roast them. So, all right. Well, let's say we just go with a few more super scary stories for sleepovers. If that's what you guys are digging, it's what I'm digging. Ray Brown, poor Dave. Yep, poor Dave. That and Whiting with a Viking helmet. Patrick, I wish Eric was here. A lot of people don't know this. Eric Whiting was my roommate for, I want to say 5 years. And actually this room I'm recording in used to be his bedroom. So I miss living with Eric. He's a hoot. He's a interesting dude. Let's see. Rob Field said, special effects, Hen. I'm sure someone is talented among your go-tos who can make a replica of Dave's severed head, right? Maybe, but, it might be cursed. Casey Lee said she needs a boyfriend. If she need a boyfriend, my dog is a lovely puggle, needs a lady. Henwolf does love the boy dog. She has Chicano, but, they're pretty much roommates. Keith Tomlin, a bolt action and a nice scope is perfect for social distancing. Well, that escalated quickly. And Patrick Lamba said he was earlier. Oh, Eric was Whiting was wearing a Viking helmet earlier. Jesus. Good old Eric. You can count on him. Well, let's do another story or two. My voice is holding up pretty well, and you guys seem to be enjoying it, which makes me really happy. I haven't Facebook Lived a ton, but I've had a lot more viewers than normal, which really makes me happy. So please, if you've just tuned in and you're enjoying this, click the share button and just share with your friends. Say, I'm listening to some scary stories and hanging out, and it's fun. And maybe they'll join us and hang out for a little bit. Because I gotta tell you, I have cabin fever out the wazoo, whatever the hell a wazoo is. That's where I have it. And this is definitely helping, I think. The donations don't hurt either. Thank you guys again so much for the tips. I really do appreciate it. We'll definitely be doing this again very soon. Oh, Patrick said no, Eric was in the chat. Oh, I missed him. That Eric guy. All right. Well, let's say, my friends, we get a little spooky. Pinkies up. All right. What do we got here? Ooh, good title. Okay. All right. This title already got me real excited. This story is called Dead Letter Office. And it's great because it's about the post office. Those are essential workers. Mindy watched her dad load a battered rusty steamer trunk from the flea market into the back of their pickup truck. "I know you've always told me that there's no such thing as junk, Dad," she said, eyeing the trunk, "but this seems pretty close." Her father slammed the tailgate closed. "On the contrary, young lady, this trunk is a real find. 1930s, I'd say. With some work, it'll bring in a nice price at the store." Mindy's father was an antiques dealer, and on weekends he and Mindy would spend time together wandering through flea markets and garage sales in search of treasures. "So where are we going next?" she asked, settling into the passenger seat. "There's an estate sale over in Louisville," her dad said as he backed out of the dirt parking lot. "The man who passed away was the postmaster." Can you hear the hounds? Those dogs scared the crap out of me. I don't know what they're barking at, but that scared the crap out of me. Oh, okay. There's an estate sale over in Louisville, her dad said as they're like coming over here now. What are you? All right. There's an estate sale over in Louisville, her dad said as he backed out of the dirt parking lot. "The man who passed away was the postmaster here in Fayette for 40 years before he retired. I understand the old guy collected memorabilia from the post office." They're still barking. Children of the night, what music they make. "Wolfie, come. Wolfie, come." I don't think you'll be able to see her because the camera's too high up. "Wolfie, come here. Come here, Wolfie." What are you barking about? What are you barking about? I can't quite see. She's too far down. All right. She's tired of me now. Right back to the howling. All right. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Life with roommates. All right. Let's see. The man who passed away was the postmaster here in Fayette for 40 years before he retired. I understand the old guy collected memorabilia from the post office. It might be interesting. Sure enough, when Mindy and her dad returned home, the pickup was full of stuff from the old postmaster's collection, along with other odds and ends. "I'll get this steamer trunk," Mindy's dad said, lifting the ancient-looking chest into the storage shed where he kept his new finds. "Would you grab that stack of old postal sacks?" "Sure, Dad," she answered, climbing into the bed of the pickup, lifting the dozen or so hefty cotton sacks and following her dad into the shed. Her father placed the trunk down in a dusty corner with a grunt, and Mindy deposited her burden on top of it. Neither of them noticed the envelope that had slipped out from between the sacks and fallen to the floor. The next day, as she often did, Mindy gave her friend Chelsea a guided tour through her father's acquisitions. Standing in the storage shed, rummaging through a box of old photos and antique silver frames, Mindy was just commenting on how weird people dressed in the early 1900s, when the frame she was holding slipped from her hand and fell to the floor. She leaned down to get it, then noticed an envelope, half hidden behind another box. "What's this?" she murmured, picking it up. "It looks like an old letter," Chelsea said, uninterested. Mindy examined the front of the letter, then turned it over. "That's weird," she observed. "According to the postmark, this is more than 40 years old, but it's never been opened." She held the envelope up to the light. "There's a letter inside. Maybe it just got stuck in between a couple of sacks of mail and was never delivered." "Where was it sent?" Chelsea asked, her curiosity growing. "Maybe we could actually take it there. Wouldn't that be wild? We might even get our pictures in the paper for seeing that a 40-year-old letter was finally delivered." Mindy studied the address written in the faded blue ink. The handwriting was small and ornate, making it difficult to read. "It's addressed to Miss Carmela Barnes at 553 Oakdale Avenue here in Fayette." Chelsea shrugged. "So much for that. There aren't any homes on Oakdale Avenue anymore. That part of town is all stores and businesses now." "Well," Mindy said with a grin, "then I guess it's okay to open it." Ripping the envelope, she unfolded a single sheet of paper. "This handwriting is the worst," she exclaimed. "Well, what does it say?" Chelsea pressed, leaning over her friend's shoulder to see the letter. "Wow," Mindy's eyes widened. "Listen to this. My dearest Camilla, the crime is done, but knowing that we can now spend our lives together makes everything all right." She paused. I can't really make this line out," she said, squinting at the small script. "Anyway, this is the important part. It won't be too much longer, and we will have everything we've ever wanted. As we planned, I'll have to go away for a while until I'm sure there's no suspicion. I've hidden the booty in the house where no one else could ever find it." Mindy looked at her friend, whose eyes were now as wide as hers. "Then it says something about the fireplace, and it's just signed with the letter D." Chelsea looked confused. "What's booty?" she asked. "Money," Mindy declared. "Or something valuable. Don't you get it? Whoever wrote this letter stole something and hid it in his house. Who knows? Maybe it's still there." "No way," Chelsea said, shaking her head. "If this is really true, I bet old D spent the booty a long time ago." "Maybe, maybe not," Mindy answered with an impish grin. "It's like an old mystery, and I think we should try to solve it. This return address isn't far from here," she said excitedly. "Let's check it out." It was only a 15-minute bike ride to the address that was written in the upper left corner of the old envelope. The girls stood on the sidewalk in front of 427 Broadmoor Lane, which turned out to be a dilapidated home. "How nice," Chelsea said sarcastically. "If the guy really did steal a lot of money, he sure didn't use any of it to fix this place up." Though it might have once been a fine home, the two-story house appeared as if it hadn't been painted in decades. The shutters were closed except for the one that dangled from an upstairs window, and the roof sagged all over. Mindy leaned her bike against the fence and tugged open the gate. The hinges squealed as if they were in pain. "Can I help you, girls?" an elderly neighbor woman called from across the street. Mindy stopped and turned to the woman who approached. "We're trying to find out about the man who owned this place," she answered, half lying. "My dad buys and sells antiques, and I think we have something that once belonged to him." "Several people have rented that place," the neighbor replied, "but the owner is a woman. She lives back in Connecticut. I keep an eye on the house for her." Mindy tried again. "He would have lived here around 1955, and his name started with a D." "Oh, you mean Daniel Matheson," the elderly woman responded without hesitation. "Yes, he did once own this house, but he died in a train crash back in 55. "Oh, how terrible," Mindy said, casting a meaningful glance at Chelsea. "Sad, really, and kind of bizarre," the woman continued. "You see, his parents died in a car crash. Anyway, they left the estate to his older sister, who wound up running off with some salesman. Of course, the house then went to Daniel, but he was so upset about everything that had happened, he closed it up and went away for several months. That's when the train wreck happened, so the house went to his cousin, Mildred." The woman shrugged. "She's never even come out to look at it. After the estate was settled, Mildred tried to sell it, but no one's ever been interested. The place has a funny feel to it. Some houses have that, you know." She gazed up at the shuttered windows and rubbed her arms as if she felt a chill. "Can't keep the place rented, neither. Not for long, anyway. Every tenant left suddenly without giving any explanation." "I wonder why," Mindy mused, staring at the house. "Well, one couple claimed to hear strange noises late at night," the woman replied. "But that's all they'd say." Mindy tugged Chelsea's shirt sleeve. "We have to be going, right, Chelsea?" Yeah," Chelsea agreed. "Thank you. I hope I was some help," the woman said, smiling. "Oh, you were," Mindy replied. "You definitely were." Once the girls had ridden around the corner, Mindy pulled her bike to the side of the road and stopped. Chelsea pulled up alongside her. "I have a plan," Mindy announced. "We're going to leave our bikes here behind the hedge, sneak back to the house, and take a look around." "Why?" Chelsea asked. "It looks abandoned." "Because whatever Daniel Matheson hid is still in there," Mindy said with excitement. "Think about it. He said in the letter he was going away. That's probably when he got killed. We also know that his girlfriend never got the letter, which means she never found out about the money." "But if there really is money in there, it's stolen," Chelsea pointed out. "Maybe we should just go to the police." "No," Mindy objected. "Whoever it was stolen from probably doesn't even think about it anymore. It's like buried treasure. We discovered the letter with the clue in it, so whatever we find, we should be able to keep." Not entirely convinced, Chelsea agreed to at least check it out, and together the two girls made their way back to the house, keeping close to the hedge so as not to be seen. Then they slipped over to the low fence and began to search for a way into the old place. "Here," Mindy finally whispered as she tugged on the cellar doors. There's a rusty old lock, but the wood around it is rotted. I think I can... With a dull groan, the wood around the lock gave way, and the ancient doors fell open, peering down at a rickety wooden staircase that disappeared into a shadowy cellar. The girls were silent for a moment. Then Chelsea mumbled nervously, "You first." Mindy nodded gravely, rummaging through the pocket of her jeans, and pulled out the penlight that she kept on her keyring. Carefully, she eased down the creaking stairs to the bare stone floor below, and Chelsea followed. The cellar was dark, and the air felt thick and clammy. The only sound was a slow, steady drip of water. Mindy moved the beam of her penlight from one side to the other and found a wide patch of wall and ceiling that were badly water-stained and covered with a thick growth of mildew. A droplet of water formed on the ceiling and fell into a murky puddle that covered nearly the whole floor. "Oh, great," Mindy grumbled. "We're going to have to walk through that." Chelsea shrugged. "Come on, if we're going to do this, let's get it over with." The girls trod cautiously across the slick floor, their sneakers making squishy sounds in the muck. They had almost made it to the stairs on the opposite side of the room when Mindy felt her feet slipping out from under her. She reached out wildly, grabbed the rough banister, and pulled herself forward, falling to her knees on a lower step. Suddenly, something let out a harsh squeal, leapt onto her pant leg, then dropped into the puddle. Mindy gasped, then turned her penlight just in time to see a huge rat racing toward a hole in the far wall. "Gross!" she screeched. "Let's get out of here," Chelsea cried. "No," Mindy protested, pulling herself back to her feet. "Look," she lit the area at the top of the stairs. The door to the first floor stood open, as if inviting them to come up. "I want to see what's inside this place." Chelsea sighed and followed Mindy to the main floor. It was gloomy and grim, but a little daylight slipped through gaps in the closed shutters, making patterns of light on the walls. The girls stopped at the threshold. The floor was thick with dust and long-abandoned spider webs, which hung eerily in every corner. The silence was so pronounced that Mindy could almost hear the sound of her own heart beating. She took a step onto the wooden floor, then another, until she reached the center of the room. "It knows we're here," she thought, trying to fight the sensation that the house itself was watching them. She remembered the elderly neighbor woman's comment that the house had a funny feel to it. "It sure is creepy in here," Chelsea whispered, as if reading her thoughts. Mindy looked around slowly, then pulled the letter from her pocket and studied the poor script once more. "The fireplace," she said at last. There was something in the letter about the fireplace. She looked at the opposite wall and saw a carved wooden mantel. Below was an oversized opening lined with flame-blackened fire tiles. The girls stepped closer to the barren fireplace, and Mindy shined her light inside. It was large and deep enough for someone to actually fit inside if they crouched down. Grimacing, Mindy swiped away the cobwebs with the letter, then crawled in. "I don't see anything," she said, then stopped. The thin fire tiles on the inner left wall of the fireplace weren't covered with soot. In fact, they'd fallen away in one corner. "There's something behind here," she yelled excitedly. Gripping the broken edge of one of the tiles, she easily pulled it loose. "What is it?" Chelsea asked, squeezing an arm in and helping Mindy pull away the tiles. Soon the girls had exposed a small, rough wooden door locked shut with a metal hook. Mindy pried at the hook, and it finally popped open. Then for an instant she thought she heard a rustling noise, as if something on the other side had moved back, away from the door. "What was that?" she murmured. "What was that?" Chelsea looked at her uneasily. Mindy reached up and pushed at the corner of the door. The rusted hinges resisted for a moment, then screeched open, shining her light inside what appeared to be a brick chamber about the size of a walk-in closet. Mindy felt her courage draining away. Even though the prize that they were searching for was probably only a few feet away, she was now filled with apprehension. "Do you think there are rats in there?" Chelsea said with a moan. "It smells awful." I don't know," Mindy stammered. Gathering her nerve, she inched forward. "Let's just take a quick look," she said, as much as to reassure herself as to comfort her friend. Once through the low door, Mindy stood still clutching the letter. Chelsea wriggled through as well. The two huddled close together as Mindy moved her light around the small room. "Look!" Chelsea cried, pointing to something hidden under a blanket in the corner. "That's it! That's the booty!" Mindy smiled uncertainly and stepped toward the long, dark object. She reached out her hand and then stopped and drew back a little. Something wasn't right. Go ahead, Chelsea urged. Once again, Mindy touched the edge of the blanket. Then slowly, very, very slowly, she pulled it back. Without warning, a pale, lifeless hand darted out from under the blanket and gripped Mindy's wrist. A scream of horror rose in her throat, and she struggled like a trapped animal to pull away. But whatever had her in its grasp held her with tremendous power. Mindy! Chelsea shrieked, unable to see what had struck such terror in her friend. What's going on? Just then, the putrid blanket fell away, and both girls could see the loathsome creature that it had hidden. Slowly, a skeletal being rose from the shadows as Mindy and Chelsea cringed and backed away in abject fear. The creature's head was little more than a skull, with a brittle cascade of what was once long blonde hair. It opened its mouth and rasped in a dry, unearthly voice. I have waited for so long for that door to be opened. From the moment I awoke to find my murderous brother sealing me alive in this cursed tomb, I have refused by my will alone to accept death. And now... Run! Screamed Mindy. Just as the girls lunged towards the open door, it swung shut and the metal latch fell closed. No! Chelsea screamed, throwing herself at the door. Oh yes, the hideous cadaver threw back its head and shuddered with demented laughter. Now you are both trapped with me. Don't you think I screamed and pounded on that door? But no one heard me, and no one will hear you, the terrible creature cackled. It seems that it is my fate to remain here, but at least I'll no longer be alone. Do something, Chelsea wailed to Mindy as she struggled to open the door. Help me! Hot tears rolled from Mindy's eyes as she didn't move. In the dull glow from her penlight, she could see that the remains of blood-stained scratches where someone else had once tried to claw her way to freedom. She could also see something else. The letter had fallen open to the floor, and she was able to read the last few lines again. Then something inside her mind snapped, and she too began to laugh insanely, not unlike the crazed cadaver. It wasn't the booty that Daniel Matheson had hidden before he left home, never to return. It was the body. Oh man, that made me do a thing. That made me get goosebumps. What did you guys think of that one? Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Every kid ever in any scary story goes back to the damn house. It is worse than the dumb chick who falls down when a killer is chasing her. Casey Lee. But without stupid decisions, we wouldn't have great entertainment. Cool. That sounds exactly like my old basement. Michelle. Nice. It's been 84 years, he says. LOL, him cackling up has got me doing it too. Let's just see. Thank you. Thank you for the tip, David Denoyer. He said it's from his mother, and well, thank you guys. Thank you, Denoyers, so much for the tip. Man, I'm actually sincerely, I'm kind of floored by the amount of tips you guys have sent over. I really appreciate it. Being out of work kind of stinks. And this helps a lot. Also, just getting to sit with you guys and create some creepy ambience is pretty fucking dope. Oh, pardon my language. Let's see. We got and Henwolf's in here too. I'm sorry we can't see her right now, guys. The camera's locked up because everybody's social distancing. But she's right here and she's being a good dog. Let's see. Cliff Cloyster, good luck sleeping tonight, kiddos, right? Mark Shields, best one so far. I think that one was pretty fun. Sean Denoyer, that was chilling. My buddy Chris Gooley's watching. Thank you for popping in, Chris. Keith Tomlin, amateurs, you never hide a body in the basement. Sharon Lee said, my favorite one. That one was a lot of fun. Casey Lee said, Sean is a beautiful saint. Mama Denoyer is the best. She's pretty great. I mean, the only mom that I know of that competes with Sean Denoyer is my own mama. Sharon Lee, LOL. Raymond Brown, oops. Shane Migliavacca, great ending. Loved your cracking up. Thank you. I'm reading these stories, for those who are joining us, for the first time, I'm reading these stories for the first time myself, unless I might have read one of these when I was a kid. These are all like young adult, fun. Oh, Henwolf has decided to take a nap right by my feet. I'll post it in the chat. I think I can do that. Oh, nope, I can't. I can't post a picture. Oh, well. You guys will just have to believe me that Henwolf is laying at my feet and being a cute dog. Chris Cooley just showed up. Hi. Hey, Patrick Lamba. Yeah, this quarantine has us all itching to get back on our sets. It's true. And I miss people. Like, this is like really fun because I get to talk to everybody and have a laugh and share some scary stories. But I have never read these stories before. So when it gets like extra spooky, I get goosebumps because I'm reading this for the first time ever with you guys, and that's extra fun for me. Rachel Rodolphe said, "Aw, Wolfie, I wish I could post a picture. It won't let me post a picture in the." Oh, here we go. All right, if you're in the chat, you'll get to see a picture of Henwolf by my feet. Maybe you will. Yep, taking the picture. Okay. Sending it. All right, I commented it on the thread. So, for those of you who just tuned in, Casey Lee, now I want to re-download Alien Isolation after hearing the alien cult story. Hey, we all got to pass our time. Please, tipping is not required, but one thing that helps immensely to make this just a lot of fun for everybody is click your little share button and just share this with your friends. Try to get them to come in and watch with you and hang out. Patrick Lamba, I love technology these days, right? I can't believe that I built such an intricate set and I'm operating it entirely by myself. That's crazy. That's super crazy. All right, I think I've got maybe one more in me, maybe two. My voice is starting to crack. But I'm assuming you guys are really digging this. So you guys want me to just keep going with more super scary stories for sleepovers? Because I've got plenty more super scary stories for sleepovers for my homies watching right now. Alexandra Harker's watching. Good to see you, Alex. I hope you're doing well. I hope you and yours are doing very well. Let's see. I got to get my throat a little bit more moistened. But the problem is the more I moisten my throat, the more likely I'll eventually need a bathroom break. Pinky's up. Kevin Lake said, make it extra spooky. I can try. I can only just read the story and see what happens. Henwolf, you're so sleepy. All right, here we go. Another story. Pardon the coughs. I do apologize for those. Rachel Rodolphe said, yes, please. Patrick Lamba said, yes. I'm glad you guys are having fun with this. I'm having a lot of fun with it too. Okay. All right, here we go. This is called The Wrath of Pele. Tendrils of wispy steam rose here and there from the sunken landscape that was the summit of Kalaw, one of the active volcanoes on the island of Hawaii. It looks like the surface of the moon. It looks more like the surface of the moon than a part of a tropical island, David's dad commented as the family took in the view from the museum at the park headquarters. Is it gonna blow? David's younger brother Chip asked with some concern. David shook his head. Do you think they'd let all of these tourists anywhere near this place if the volcano was going to erupt? He gestured toward about a dozen people who were also enjoying the view. Actually, they would, someone said. David turned to see the speaker, a pleasant-faced young man who appeared to be a native islander. Kalaw has actually been in a state of eruption since 1983, he informed them. Sometimes it's more spectacular than others. Pele's been busy. What's Pele? David asked. The young man smiled. Not what. Who? Pele is the great fire goddess, and her home is here in the Halemaumau. He pointed to a distant depression in the floor of the crater. She's moody and short-tempered, and when she's angry, she stamps her foot so hard the ground shakes. He looked thoughtful for a moment. But Pele is a builder, too. At times, she sends lava to the sea. When the fiery flows harden, They have been known to add hundreds of acres of new land to this island. That sounds spectacular, David's mom said, her eyes filled with wonder as she gazed at the volcano. It is, the islander responded. Actually, if you want to get a closer look at the lava reaching the sea, just drive about 20 miles out towards the ocean and see for yourself. But be careful, the water may look calm, but it can be dangerous if you get too close. Can we go, Dad, please? Chip begged. David looked hopefully at his parents. It sounds really cool, he exclaimed. Maybe I could even find some neat rocks for my collection. The young islander quickly held up his hand. Oh no, Pele is a selfish goddess. It would be disrespectful for a stranger to steal what is hers, and anyone who does will inevitably feel her revenge. His tone grew ominous. Some say that in retribution, Pele claims the offender's spirit as her own to serve her forever, initiating her new slave in a bath of fire. Then the young man winked, making David unsure if the grim tale was meant to be taken seriously or not. Once back in the rental car, David's mom took a look at the map. Here it is, she said, tracing a line with her finger. It really isn't that far out of our way. David's father smiled. Well then, let's do it. From the backseat, Chip suddenly asked, People don't really believe that stuff about the fire goddess, do they? I'm sure many do, his mom answered. These islands have a very rich history and tradition. Besides, we shouldn't just discount something because we don't understand it. True, his father added, but that man at the museum was making the story more dramatic, for our benefit. The earthquakes on this island are caused when pressure builds up and is released in the volcanoes, not when some mythological goddess stamps her foot. After a few miles, the highway narrowed and finally became no more than a dirt road. David's dad pulled into an open area that appeared to be a rough parking lot, and everyone got out. All around were signs of past lava flows. Jumbles of black and reddish-brown volcanic rock sloped down to the sea. Here and there, hardy vegetation had gained footholds to form oases of green. There's the path, David yelled, racing ahead. Not so fast, his mom called out. She pointed to a sign near the path that said, Closed to the public. Aw, come on, Chip begged. There's nobody here. Who's going to know if we go a little closer? David insisted. I really want to get a piece of rock as a souvenir. Their mom shook her head. I'm sure they had a good reason for closing the path. Remember what the man at the museum said, this area can be dangerous. And as for taking a rock, their dad added sternly, even if you don't share someone else's beliefs, you really must respect their wishes. As David walked glumly back to the car, he noticed a glassy black rock no bigger than a walnut on the ground, and since no one was watching, he picked it up. Heavy for its size, the rock felt smooth and warm in his hand. What can it hurt? He thought. We'll be gone by tomorrow, slipping the rock into his pocket. David looked up to see Chip staring at him with that you're not supposed to do that look in his eye. Knowing Chip liked secrets, David put a finger to his lips, signaling his little brother not to tell. The next afternoon, David sat quietly in a window seat of an airplane that would take him and his family back home. David was sorry to be leaving, but he was glad he'd come away with a special souvenir. He could feel the shape of the glassy black rock in the pocket of his jeans. He fidgeted in his seat. The rock still felt warm. Uncomfortably warm. Are you okay, honey? His mom asked. Yeah, David replied. Below the island slipped from view, and there was only sparkling blue ocean as far as the eye could see. The unpleasant sensation passed. I'm fine. It was very late when the family arrived at the airport in Los Angeles, and past midnight when they got home. David could barely keep his eyes open while he undressed for bed. As he threw his jeans over the back of a chair, the glassy black rock fell out of his pocket and rolled into the center of the room. Picking it up, he tossed the rock onto his desk, crawled into bed, and fell fast asleep. When David awoke, it was already 9 o'clock. His body was still operating on Hawaii time, where it was only 6 o'clock. Groggy, David pulled the comforter over his head. Suddenly his eyes popped open. Was something burning? Slipping out of bed, he traced the source of the smell to a small patch of his desktop that appeared slightly charred. At the center of the marred spot, was the volcanic rock. "This is too weird," David muttered under his breath. He reached out and touched the wooden desktop. It was eerily warm, but the rock itself was cool. "There's a logical explanation for this," he said out loud. "This kind of rock probably gives off heat for a while." He dumped out all the pencils from a metal box on his desk, slid the rock into the box, and snapped the lid shut. Then he slipped the box into his t-shirt drawer and hurried to get dressed. But as he opened his bedroom door to head downstairs for breakfast, he once again caught a faint whiff of smoke. It was coming from his t-shirt drawer. Hoping that he was wrong, David pulled open the drawer, then drew back in alarm. The metal tin was glowing, and the t-shirts near it were badly scorched. Without thinking, he reached out for the metal box, then pulled his fingers away in pain. "What am I going to do?" he moaned. He couldn't ask his parents for help. They would want to know where the rock came from, and he would have to admit that he had disobeyed them. And then he had an idea. Racing to his closet, David frantically tossed aside a few things, then dragged out his science kit. He yanked open the top and pulled out a pair of metal tongs. Maneuvering carefully, he used the tongs to pry open the metal box. He then clamped them around the glowing rock. Creeping downstairs, still gripping the rock with tongs, David pressed himself against the wall to avoid being seen by his parents, who were busily preparing a late breakfast in the kitchen. Sweat trickled down his forehead, but he managed to silently slide the glass patio door open. Once outside, he tossed the bizarre rock into the fish pond that his dad had so proudly constructed in one corner of the backyard. The water sputtered and sizzled a little as the rock slipped beneath the surface, and 2 or 3 small goldfish swam close to investigate, then quickly zipped away. "It's the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life," David's dad said later that day as he stepped through the patio door holding a shallow bucket. "The pond is dried up." David, sitting at the kitchen table, working on an airplane model with Chip, snapped his gaze up to his father. A stab of fear made his muscles tighten. David's mom turned from the counter where she'd been slicing apples to make a pie. "What on earth do you mean?" "Just what I said," he responded. "It's dry as a bone. This is all that's left." He opened a newspaper onto the kitchen floor and emptied the contents of the bucket. Several withered fish lay lifeless within a tangled mat of parched water plants. He shook the bucket and a small, glassy black rock slid out. "Hey, David," Chip began. "That's the rock you—" But David kicked him sharply under the table. "I just don't understand," their father said in puzzlement. "It hasn't been that hot here, and it should take weeks for the water to evaporate like this. I know, I checked the level before we went away." He shook his head. "I suppose I should check to see if there are any leaks." David's mom carefully put down her paring knife. "Well, I've got to see this for myself," she declared. "Me too," Chip added, bounding from his chair. David looked at the dead fish. "I'll just throw these poor guys in the trash." As soon as the rest of the family was outside, David bent down and with trembling fingers picked up the now cool rock. Clutching it tightly in his fist, he whispered fearfully as if trying to appease some invisible being, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you angry." Then he slipped the rock into his pocket, wrapped the dead fish and plants in the newspaper, and stuffed them into the trash. The patio door slid open again and everyone trooped into the kitchen. "It's really weird," Chip announced. "Don't you want to see, David?" But before he could answer, his mother put her hand on his forehead. "Are you okay?" she asked with concern. "You look a little feverish." "I'm fine," he lied. How could he tell her about the icy dread that was seeping into his thoughts? The growing terror that an ancient being half an ocean away was seeking retribution for his thoughtless act. Throughout the rest of the day, he tried to figure out what to do. Just when it seemed there was no way to get rid of the rock, David had an idea. Going straight to his father's garden shed, he found a small shovel. Then he scooped a shallow hole in the rich, dark soil of the flower garden. With his heart pounding, David fished the rock from his pocket, dropped it into the hole, and quickly covered it up. "There," he declared, "now you can't do any harm." The next night, David's parents went out to dinner, leaving him in charge of taking care of Chip. "Here's the telephone number of the restaurant where we'll be," his mom said, handing David a piece of notebook paper. "We won't be late. I've told Mrs. Samuels next door that you two will be home alone, and she said she'd be happy to come over if you need anything." "We'll be fine, Mom," David replied. With the rock buried in the flower garden now out of his mind, David was confident that he had beaten Pele's wrath. 30 minutes later, he felt the first tremors beneath his feet. "Did you feel that?" Chip questioned, looking up from the TV screen. "Was it an earthquake?" "Probably," David responded casually. He was used to tiny quakes that were common in the Los Angeles area. Suddenly, a stronger tremor shook the house, and Chip dove under the sturdy wooden coffee table. David screamed for his brother to stay put. From his vantage point, he had a clear view of the patio and backyard beyond, and what he saw made his legs buckle. A huge, jagged rift had opened in the flower bed. As the house shook more violently, the rift widened, and red flames spewed high into the night sky. Riveted to the spot, David watched in horror as a tall, slender being rose from within the inferno. Her entire body glowed intensely as if it were white hot, and her long hair flickered and danced like flames. "Pele," he managed to choke out. Her fiery eyes blazed with anger, and she held out her hands to David while the ground continued to vibrate and things tumbled down everywhere. "No," he shrieked, as the words of the young man at the museum screamed in his brain. "Some say that in retribution, Pele claims the offender's spirit as her own to serve her forever." Twisting away, David attempted to run, but a wall of fire sprang up around him, blocking his retreat. Through the blaze, he could see Chip, cringing in terror under the coffee table. "Give her the rock back!" he screamed. "It's too late!" David cried. Then, against his will, he moved helplessly towards the fiery goddess. That one was pretty fun. It didn't go exactly the way I thought it would, but I liked that one. That was fun. Let's see what we got going here in the chat. Did you guys enjoy that one? David Denoyer said, "I don't like this story has a David nor the phrase David's mom." Alexandra said, "YouTube, good to see you too, buddy. I was thinking about you last week and I thought, man, that would be cool if Henrik could read live scary stories. Haha, perfect. That's a very specific desire, but I am happy to oblige." Rob Field said, "Mark your territory." Jeff McClellan said, "You said moist." Casey Lee said, "I shared, but I'm going to step out. Got to start my Twitch stream." Have fun, Casey. I know you're probably already gone, but thank you for hanging out. I think it's still going. Yeah. I'm trying to see the comment stream, but it's not always easy. So, did you guys enjoy that one? Was that a fun time? I'm trying to get comfy. My poor Tookus is really taking a beating right now. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. We're getting a lot more comments now. Rachel Rodolfi said, "Damn it, Dave." Patrick Lamba said, "Just letting whoever needs to hear this, I lost the game." Shea Migliavacca, "If you smell what the Rock is cooking." Patrick Lamba, "I wonder if he picked this story to thank the Denoyer family." Kevin Lakes, "Darn you, Patrick. You're tearing me apart." Patrick is killing me. Alani Milligan, "Darn Skippy, you don't mess with Miss P." Ray Cersei, "David doesn't listen." Rob Fields, "This has definitely been a fun night so far. You're making the time go quickly tonight." Thank you. Sincerely, thank you. I wanted to do something fun with friends, you know? Kevin Lakes, "That was great." Sean Denoyer is watching. Chris Gooley, "Enjoyed it." Raymond, "Yeah." Ray Cersei, "Yes, fun." Patrick Lamba, "Loved it." Rachel Rodolfi, "If only your assistant had insisted you take that back your butt cushion." Rachel is currently, was driving DoorDash. I don't know if she is anymore, but her poor butt was really hurting from doing like a 10-hour shift, because Rachel is one of the heroes that is out delivering all of our food while many of us are just kind of stuck at home going crazy. And I insisted Rachel borrow my seat cushion. And I really miss that seat cushion right about now. Okay, I guess I could do one more story for you guys. I think I got it in me before I've got to really rest my voice. I just want to check. No new tips, but that's okay, because honestly, I think we got more tips than I ever would have hoped for. Sincerely, thank you guys. But if you're feeling generous, I mean, $1 or $2 is more than enough. to make me feel the appreciation, or just a funny comment like Patrick Lamba is just kind of knocking us over with. Let's see. Craig Cohen, yes, fun. You have a gifted reading voice that helps the listeners sink into the stories. Thank you so much. Alani, off to night. Thanks for a fun night. My pleasure, Alani. You have a beautiful night, and you stay safe and healthy, you and yours. Mark Shields still having fun. Thank you. Well, then I say we do one more. Patrick thanked Rachel. Everybody, if you get a chance, thank Rachel, because she really is one of the people that is driving around in her car 11 hours a day, picking up food and bringing it to people's houses to help them out. It's easy to take things like that for granted or think that it's a frivolous thing to have food delivered until you are basically trapped in your home. And then all of a sudden it becomes a highlight of your day to be able to get that damn cheeseburger you really like. Keith just said, do you have a story where all of the victims are named Dave? Unfortunately, no. That would be a cursed story. Maybe we'll tell some cursed stories later. So, oh, my poor butt. All right, guys. I say we'll do one more. Patrick said, LOL, just cutting loose and relaxing. Love your showmanship. I try. Honestly, I wish that I could claim I have some amazing razzle-dazzle power. This is me just hanging out alone in my house. But I'm so happy to get to hang out with you guys. So we'll do one more story. Please, if you've been debating, just throw a tip, $1, $2. I'm not talking big money at all, but if you can throw a tip, it's a huge help. Sean Denoyer, have a great night. Henrik, thank you again. Had a lot of fun. Thank you. We'll do it again sometime soon. Maybe this time next week or something along those lines. We'll do it again. I just need to make sure my voice recovers because I do 2 podcasts a week. David mentioned we need to do a quarantine podcast. David, the service I use to do podcasts, at home, Zencaster, it's free to use right now because of the quarantine. They're letting everybody podcast for free. You can hit me up about that. But yeah, so if you want a Venmo or PayPal, I'd really appreciate it. But I'm going to do one more story. Do I have a pillow in here or something I could just put on for my poor butt? My poor butt. All right. One more, and also keep an eye out. I might go ahead and make Uncle Henny's Campfire Stories t-shirt just for the hell of it. But anyway, let's, I don't need to sell stuff. I need to read scary stories because they're giving me a lot of fun, and I hope they're giving you a lot of fun too. All right. Last story for the night. Please make your funny comments and have a good time. And I'm going to try not to cough into the mic too much. Here we go, my friends. Oh, weird. This story is called Faithful Friends. Seth and Monica each stifled a laugh as Gary slipped quietly onto the darkened, sagging porch of old Eli Kane's rundown farmhouse. The 3 kids delighted in doing things to cause Eli as much grief as possible. Because the house was isolated, he was an easy target whenever they felt like pulling one of their mean-spirited pranks, which was whenever they had nothing better to do. Last spring, they'd ripped out his vegetable patch and poured salt on the ground so nothing else would grow. During the summer, they'd poured sugar in the gas tank of his tractor and ruined it. Eli had told the sheriff that he thought they were responsible for the damage. And the sheriff hadn't been surprised. It wasn't the first time these 3 kids had been accused of such activity. Gary had gotten into trouble with his dad, but no one was able to prove anything. As far as anyone knew, Eli had no family and had lived alone for as long as he'd lived in Bartholomew County. There weren't any neighbors within a mile of his dilapidated place, and his gruff demeanor kept most everyone away. Eli's only companion up until this month had been a dog. A scruffy mongrel that was said to be part wolf. Eli had called her Stitch, and she used to bark and howl whenever anyone would get too near the house. But Stitch had finally died, and now the elderly man was really alone. With the mutt gone, it was even easier for Seth, Monica, and Gary to torment Eli Kane, and this time they had something special planned. Slowly and carefully, Gary eased up to the window and peered inside the elderly man's living room. Then he waved to the others, a silent signal for them to follow him. Carrying several plastic bags filled with garbage collected from the trash bin behind the diner in town, Seth and Monica quickly joined him on the porch. "He's asleep in front of the fire," Gary whispered excitedly. "Give me one of those bags." Monica handed one to Gary. He unwound the twist tie that held it closed, then made a face. "P.U., this stuff stinks," he declared aloud. "Shut up," Seth growled. "Old Eli'll hear you." "No, he won't. He's half deaf," Gary said, grinning evilly. "Come on, let's have some fun." Monica and Seth opened the bags they were holding, and the kids began to spread the gooey, smelly garbage outside of Eli's house. Suddenly, Seth stopped and motioned for the others to do the same. "What was that?" he asked hesitantly. "Did you guys hear something?" He turned and looked out towards the woods behind the barn. But even in the light of the full moon, Seth couldn't hear a thing. Monica listened for a moment, then shook her head. "I didn't hear anything. It sounded like a wolf or something," Seth said, his brow furrowed with concern. "Yeah," Gary snickered. "I'll bet it was old Stitch coming to get us." "That's not funny," Seth said solemnly. "We have to go through those woods to get home." Monica tossed her empty plastic bag into the bushes nearby and scowled. "Seth is right. You shouldn't joke like that. You might make it come true." She lowered her voice as if telling a secret. "My big brother said that no grave would hold that she-wolf when she died. He said Stitch was just plain mean." "You are so weird," Seth scoffed. "When something is dead, it's dead. Besides, how would your brother know?" "He thinks Stitch was the one killing the sheep we lost a couple months ago," Monica replied. "He shot at her as she ran away, and he thought he hit her in the right leg, but she kept going." Seth shook his head. "Something's been killing sheep in this county for a long time, but it isn't any mangy old dog. They're probably real wolves down from the mountains. Besides," he sneered, "your brother couldn't hit an elephant at 20 feet. "Oh yeah?" Monica put her hands on her hips. "I'll bet he did get Stitch and that's why she died." "I'll take that bet," Seth said, offering his hand out in defiance. "You're on," Monica answered back, shaking his hand and glaring at him. I have an idea," Gary said, trying to break the silent standoff. "Let's go see who's right." "What do you mean?" Monica and Seth asked in unison. "I know where old Eli buried Stitch," Gary replied, grinning widely. "I saw him one day standing and talking to a mound of dirt behind the barn. I'll bet that's her grave. It wouldn't take long to dig her up and see if she has any buckshot in her." Seth and Monica glanced at each other. "Come on," Gary urged. "You're not scared, are you?" "No," Seth answered, shaking his head. "Let's go get some shovels." Moments later, the three stood in the shadow of the barn facing a large patch of bare dirt. They all clutched shovels they had found in Eli's tool shed. "Let's do it," Seth said slowly. "You first," Gary goaded Seth and Monica. "It's your bet." Seth and Monica looked at each other and hesitated. "Fine," Gary said with a snort as he leaned over and pushed his own shovel deep into the soft soil. Seth and Monica began to dig as well, and it wasn't long before they hit something hard. "Hold up, guys," Gary ordered, using the tip of his shovel. He carefully outlined what looked like a large, rough wooden box. "Let's dig around it and see if we can get it out." It took all three of them to clear the dirt away and wrestle the box to the surface, balancing it on the edge of the grave. Exhausted, Monica plopped down next to the box and looked at her friends. "Now what?" she asked. Gary's lips curled up in an evil smile. "Now we open it and see what's inside." As he pried at the edges of the box, a ragged cloud snaked across the face of the moon, sending dark fingers of shadow across the field toward them. Monica jumped to her feet, shivering. "Wait a minute. Gary, this is spooky," she whispered. "Maybe we shouldn't do this. I mean, what if Stitch really could come?" Just then, the door to the tool shed slammed shut in a gust of wind, and Monica's warning caught her in the throat. Startled, she jumped and hit the corner of the box. In a shower of dirt, it slipped partly back into the hole and popped open. All three of the kids stared into the vacant eyes of the decomposing dog. Her lips had been drawn back in death, exposing her long, sharp teeth, and looking as if she were snarling. "Ooh," Monica gasped as a horrible stench filled the air. Seth stumbled back. "Let's go," he begged. "I don't like this." "No, wait," Gary commanded. He stared for a moment at the body. Then he glanced towards the house. "I've got an idea." And he quickly told the others what he had in mind. "I don't know about this," Monica said once she had heard the whole plan. "It's too weird." "Yeah," Seth agreed. "And it sounds kind of risky to me." "It's just a dead dog," Gary argued. "She can't hurt anybody." To make his point, he tossed a pebble into the open box. It hit the dog's body with a dull thud. "It'll be fun. We can really drive Eli crazy. All we have to do is hide the body back in the woods, then coax the old man into coming out and finding the empty grave." "What makes you think he'll fall for it?" Seth asked. "That old mutt was the only family Eli ever had. She meant everything to him. If he doesn't believe she's come back from the dead, at least he'll want to believe it." He looked at the still anxious expressions on his friends' faces. "It'll be a real goof, that is," he said, looking straight at Monica. "Unless you're too chicken." "I'm not chicken," Monica said slowly, annoyed by the comment. Then she looked up with a cruel, determined glint in her eye. "Let's do it." Seth shrugged. "I'm in." After finding a canvas tarp in Eli's shed, the three lifted the body into it. "This is really gross," Monica grumbled, wrinkling up her nose. "She smells and she's giving me the creeps. Can't we close her eyes or something? She's looking right at me." "She'll be covered up in a minute," Gary answered. "Quit complaining." Seth made a face. "Are you sure she's dead? She doesn't feel dead. I thought bodies were supposed to get stiff." "That's only for a while," Gary said, throwing him a disgusted look. "She's dead, all right." The trio silently lifted their burden and carried it off into the woods. Afterward, the three doubled back to the farmhouse. While Monica and Seth crouched in the bushes, Gary sprinted towards the porch. He checked to see that Eli was still asleep, then tapped loudly on the window pane. The old man stirred. "Ahoo!" Gary howled, as Monica and Seth clamped their hands over their mouths to keep from laughing. Inside, Eli sat up straight and listened. Using a long stick, Gary scratched at the door. "Ahoo!" he howled again, and then added in a pitiful whine, "Ellie!" Henwolf was helping. Then he leapt from the edge of the porch and rolled into the bushes just as Eli yanked open the door. "Stitch!" the aged man called out in a frail voice. "Is that you, girl?" Wincing and rubbing his right leg as he limped, Eli hobbled down the stairs across the front yard and to the site of the now open grave. He stared down at the upturned earth in disbelief. Keeping to the shadows, the kids moved in close enough to watch the results of their practical joke. "Please, girl," Eli suddenly cried out once more. "If you're here, let me see you." His face was twisted in suffering, and when his pitiful plea faded unanswered into the night, he just stood there for a while, with his head in his hands, his shoulders trembling. "What's he doing?" Seth whispered. "Shh," Monica answered, hitting Seth hard in the arm. Eli suddenly looked up in their direction. Then he raised his head almost as if he were sniffing the breeze. He muttered, turning and shuffling toward the house. He stopped once more. Then he reached his door and looked back towards them. "You don't think he can see us, do you?" Monica moaned. "No way," whispered Gary. "Well, I say we get out of here anyway," Seth urged. "I suddenly have a really creepy feeling about this." "Maybe we should put the dog back," Monica offered. "I don't want to go near that thing," said Seth. "Let's just go." The others agreed and they took off toward the main road, only about a quarter of a mile through the woods. For a while the kids walked in silence. The tall, dark trees seemed to press toward them, letting in only small splashes of pale moonlight to show the path. Monica was the first to speak. "Do you guys think, you really don't believe that things can come back after they're dead?" "Of course not," Gary said with a sneer. "You've seen too many movies." The girl pulled her jacket more tightly around her shoulders and whimpered. "I don't like this. I feel like we're being watched." She looked from side to side. "I keep seeing that dog's eyes looking right at me." They walked a little farther, but now it seemed as if there was something different in the woods. Something sinister. "Stop," Seth said abruptly. "What was that?" Gary let out a groan. "Oh, great, now you're hearing things again." "I didn't hear—" "Shut up," Seth demanded, holding up his hand. He peered into the darkness around them. "I heard something too," Monica murmured after a moment. "It came from back there." She pointed in the direction they had come from. They all stood, perfectly still, and listened to the gentle breeze sighing softly in the treetops. Suddenly an owl hooted in the distance, followed by something else. As they strained to hear what it was, a low rumbling noise sounded behind a tangle of branches just a few feet away. Monica tried to catch her breath. "There's something there," she gasped. In answer, the branches began to crackle and snap. Then with a deep, guttural roar, a huge, shadowy form sprang from the gloom. Gary let out a piercing cry and charged headlong down the path with Monica at his heels. Somewhere behind them, Seth's horrible screams ripped through the night. As Gary lurched forward along the path, sharp branches reached out and tore at his face. His breath came in ragged gulps that stung his chest. Then, all at once, he stumbled and fell hard to the cold ground. Something tumbled on top of him, and he screeched in terror. "It's me!" Monica cried hysterically. "What are we going to do? It's already got Seth, and it's coming for us. We've got to get out of here." Gary scrambled to his feet and pulled the hysterical girl up behind him. "This way," he commanded. "The road is just up ahead." But as they turned to run, a ghastly figure crashed through the undergrowth and leaped into their path. Gary was frozen to the spot, his heart about to burst. Crouched right in front of him was some sort of hideous, wolf-like beast. It was covered with stiff, rust-colored fur, and it glared at them with flaming, blood-red eyes, droplets of foam dripping from its razor-toothed jaws. "It must be the spirit of Stitch," Gary heard Monica scream beside him. "She's come back as a ghost because of what we did to her body and to the old man." Slowly, with tremendous effort, Gary managed to force himself to move. He inched away, a little at a time. Just as slowly, the phantom creature began to slink toward them. Monica reached out and brushed at Gary's hand. "Don't leave me," she begged. Gary pulled his hand away, and with a sudden surge of strength, he took off running. Monica's shrieks filled his ears, but he didn't even look back. He knew what he had to do. He raced to the spot where they had left the tarp-covered body of the terrible dog. If the thing really was a vengeful spirit after them because of what they had done, then maybe it would leave him alone if he buried the body again. With tears streaming down his face, Gary dragged the body across the field. "I can do this," he tried to convince himself. "I've got to do this." The pallid moon shone down on him as he worked feverishly to place the corpse back into the box and rebury it. Finally, he let the shovel fall from his sweating hands. It was done. "There," he said, aloud, as if the spirit of the dog could hear him. "That's what you wanted, isn't it? Now leave me alone." Covered with dirt, Gary backed slowly away from the grave and bumped into something. Slowly, he turned around and came face to face with Eli. "You!" Gary screamed wildly. "It's all your fault!" The man looked at him without emotion. "Seth is dead, and Monica is probably dead too," Gary yelled. "I'm going to tell everybody that you and your monster dog are murderers." Eli simply shook his head. "You're wrong, boy. So very wrong," he whispered as he glanced down at the grave. "She's no monster. All that's buried here are the earthly remains of a dog. A gentle, faithful old friend who accepted me for what I really am." He looked up. "Stitch was my only friend. You should never have disturbed her resting place. You should never have tried to hurt me by defiling her grave." He paused for a moment. "You've done harm to me before, and I've let it pass as just spiteful pranks. But this time you've mistreated my friend. This time I will not let it go unpunished." Gary felt his tortured heart begin to pound again as the man's eyes began to glow a fiery red, the same crimson color as those of the beast that attacked him and Monica. Numbed by fear, he could barely breathe. "You're wrong about something else, too," Eli snarled. The bright moonlight illuminated the stiff, rust-colored hairs now protruding from his changing shape. "And you were wrong about telling everyone about me. Saliva streamed from the corners of Eli's mouth as teeth grew sharp and gleaming white. His jaws extended into long, wolfish snout. His transformation to werewolf was complete. Eli moved ominously toward his victim. You were wrong, because you aren't going to be around to tell anybody anything. Woo! We got werewolves, baby! We got werewolves! That was so fun! Oh, man! Did you guys enjoy that one? That was some fun stuff right there. All right, let's see. And it was breaking my heart reading the sad stuff about, the dog and everything. You guys know I'm a dog person. But, man, that is some comeuppance right there. I felt it when he said gooey, like it was in the story. Also, Henwolf, I appreciated her adding ambience. Let's see. Don't mess with the doggos. Thank you, Kevin Lakes. Morgan Moore, please tell me these kids get zombie rabies. Ray Cersei, I think I'm saying your name right, Cersei. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aha, oh my god, the doggy doing a heckin' help. Chris Gooley, nice dog sound effects, right? Kevin Lake's Pet Cemetery, I was thinking the same thing. Catherine Wolf, good to see you, Katie. I look forward to working with you when, the world becomes normal again. There's Grace, Patrick Lamba. That was a fun one. Thank you, Chris. Gary deserved to get eaten. Damn right. And Morgan Moore said fantastic. And, and we have a couple of donations I want to thank you guys for. We got one from, Gullin Studios. It says, love you, man. We're all in this together. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And also from, I think I'm saying it Ray Cersei or Ray Circe. I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you so much for your tip. I really do appreciate it. Well, oh, good. I'm saying it right. Good. I try to pronounce names right because my name's Henrik Hudo and it's got a Q in it and everybody's confused all the time and it's a thing. So, anyway, my friends, it's after 10 o'clock and my voice is starting to give. So I do want to just say thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'm going to do this again soon, probably next week, probably next Wednesday. So keep an eye out on my Facebook page for, when I announce it. We'll do it again. We'll have a lot of fun. And we'll just kind of stay at home, but try to be together. Zygmunt Rudolph just said, greetings from Florida. Thank you for hopping on. This will be archived, so you guys can go back and catch parts you missed and stuff like that. Patrick Lemba said, zombie rabies. Perfect, whoever said that. I think it was Kevin Lakes who said that. Nathan said, have a good night, buddy. You too. Rob Field said, thank you so much for this, Hen. You rock. I try. I really do try. I hope that this made your guys' evening a little bit better. It made mine really awesome. Keith said, Wildlands tomorrow. We can play tomorrow. Just holler at me. Ray said, stay safe. I will, my friend. You as well. And everybody who's watching this, please be safe and enjoy your favorite escapism. And I'll be back probably this time next week. If not, maybe even sooner if you guys tell me you really want it. I'll be back and I'll tell you some more scary stories at my campfire because we're all people still. And we love this stuff. I love this stuff. So, good night, you guys. And thank you again so much to everybody who tipped. You really helped me out a lot. So, be well, my friends. Be well and take care.